Yo, what's up YouTube? InfoWiz here with a new deck profile featuring one of my favorite decks in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Empty Jar. Empty Jar is a deck that's focused on milling your opponent's cards in their deck to the graveyard by reusing the effect of Morphing Jar. My build runs 1. Morphing Jar, of course, because it's the engine of the deck. We would use the effect by flipping it face down and face up repeatedly, drawing new hands, and forcing your opponent to do the same. I run 3, 80 Changer. This card can be banished from a player's graveyard to change the battle position of one monster in the field. So the target can be face down, in this case Morphing Jar, and can flip it face up. The one thing the 80 Changer can't do is flip the monster back face down again. That would be too broken, of course. I run 3 Swift Scarecrows. This card is used to prevent me from dying. I wait as long as I can when I have this card, and then discard it when I really need it the most. I use it mostly to stall so I can get the combo pieces in my hand, which would be one Morphing Jar, something to flip it up, something to flip it face down, and a Heavy Storm. Last monster is, of course, Sangan. You can search any of the cards in the deck. Perfect for searching the jar, much better than searching the jar than Deep Diver or Giant Rat, because it's not reliant on being destroyed by battle. And this format's way too fast for monsters that need to be destroyed by battle. This is a much better option. I would not run any of the other cards like Giant Rat or Deep Diver. 3. Book of Tayu. This card is used to flip Morphing Jar face up to activate the effect. It's the same as 80 Changer, though 80 Changer is a bit better because you remove it from the graveyard, and I guess your opponent would have less outs to that kind of a play. Maybe DD Crow or something. 3. Book of Eclipse. This card flips all monster cards in the field face down, and during the end phase, your opponent's monsters will flip face up, and they must draw one card for each of them. That flip. This can be used to flip the Morphing Jar, of course, face down, reuse the effect, which is mostly the case, or it can be used defensively if your opponent attacks with a big field. You know, you can set this battle phase, flip, activate, set all the monsters end phase, draw as many cards equal to the number of monsters they have in the field. It's an excellent card in this deck. One Book of Moon, self-explanatory. Triple, a Feather of the Phoenix, used to recycle cards in your deck. And as I said, cards, not just spell cards, all cards. If Morphing Jar does go to the graveyard somehow, in some bizarre circumstance, you can bounce it back to the top of your deck, draw it with the many draw cards that you run in this deck, and set it again next turn. Three, One Day of Peace. This card is extremely broken in this deck. Allows you to draw one card, forces your opponent to draw one card as well, which is always good in this deck, and prevents your opponent from doing any damage at all to you. So this is great if you're still stalling to get the last piece of the combo, or just to abuse with card destruction, forcing them to have 6 or 7 cards in their hand, and then playing card destruction, making them discard all those cards and draw 7 new. It's such a good card. I hope it doesn't get limited or semi-limited. 3. Upstart Goblins. Let me just find the last one. Here. obvious. Yeah, you need the draw power in this deck. Life points don't matter, so your opponent gaining 1,000 doesn't affect you in any way. Must play all these cards. I also run 3 Magical Mallet. This card refreshes your hand, sends bad cards back to the deck, shuffle, and allows you to draw new cards. You can keep some of the combo pieces that you have and hope to God that you get them after playing this. And then we have Triple Pot of Duality. Adds consistency to the deck, adds all decks. You don't special summon at all in this deck, so it's perfect. Only thing it dies to is Thunder King. Also run Triple Gold Sark. Of course, stable, searches anything in the deck. Traditionally Morphing Jar, Creature Swap, or Heavy Storm. I'll explain why I run Creature Swap in a little bit. Two, Magical Stone Excavation. Can be used to recycle any of the spell cards in your deck. Most of the time it's either Book, Heavy Storm, or Card Destruction. Perfect. You have so many cards, so it's alright to discard 2 cards. Here we go with the 2 creature swaps. Now this is my personal tech card of the deck. It's much better than Fissure in this deck, because with Fissure you'd have to be careful with your AD changers and not get them removed from play. You want to be able to use their effects before they get removed from play. So this is why this is also better, because it shifts control of your Morphing Jar to your opponent. And if your opponent has the Morphing Jar, they can't Veiler it. Or, in another circumstance, they can't use their own Dark World effects against your cards, because the Morphing Jar will be on their side of the field, and it's unaffected by any of those cards' effects. So traditionally though, you would set Morphing Jar, play this, shift control of the jar to your opponent, then you would start the loop. That's how it works. You could even set Sangan, play this, take their monster, attack into Sangan, you go for pluses, but I never really do that. It's not really something that's done in this deck, attacking at all. 1 Foolish Burial to get the AD changer in the graveyard. Heavy Storm to clear back rows. Of course, this is a spell card, why not play it? It's abusable. If it fails due to Solemn Judgment or whatever, you can take it back to the hand and play it again. And the last thing is Card Destruction. This is the win con of the deck, since Morphing Jar will mill 5 cards evenly from both players during the duel. You will inevitably have fewer cards than your opponent, so you need to have this at the end of the duel and abuse the effects by setting most of your hand and playing this, forcing your opponent to do the drawing instead of you, therefore evening out the difference between the cards in the player's decks. Now with this deck there are lots of things that can be used against it. For example, this deck relies a lot on Morphing Jar's effects, so it's a monster's effects. So if your opponent has something like Skill Drain out in the field, you could still play around that by carefully playing your books. For example, I have Morphing Jar in my hand. I set it face down. I play Book of Taiyu from my hand to flip my Morphing Jar face up. He has Skill Drain face up on the field. Oh no, my Morphing Jar is effects negated. Oh wait, no it's not. I chain Book of Eclipse to Morphing Jar's effect, forcing Morphing Jar face down and allowing his effect to go through, allowing you to discard your hand and draw 5 more. Until eventually you get the Heavy Storm, because you can't keep this up forever really. Depending on what part of the game it is. And as I said, Effect Veiler is dead. There's really not much your opponent can do. If they've got Dolkon in the field, you can easily play a Book of Eclipse or Book of Moon to get it face down, or somehow creature swap it. You know, it's not really a problem. That's basically it. Your opponent usually doesn't have anything in their side deck to side in against this deck anyway. So I wouldn't consider making a side deck myself. You wouldn't want to play this deck too much at a locals, for example, because they'll start realizing that you play this deck an awful lot, and then they'll start siding things against you. So it's basically better to use this deck as a surprise at major events like a YCS or something like that. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Rate, comment, subscribe. That's it. Peace.